Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is walking away. When is it prudent to choose to walk away versus persisting in trying to rectify a situation? And is walking away giving up? I think so many of us have a problem letting go of certain situations, feeling like we're giving up rather than making a choice that is the best choice. So anyway, before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine brilliant bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, and creating this brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together and softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel the deliciousness of that sensation, to be able to really presence yourself to your body in this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Great to be here with you. I know we've been having some difficulties getting things to be streaming on Facebook. And I'm just checking in to see if today is any different. Nope, we're still not on Facebook. Apparently, Restream is having some issues. Hopefully, you get to find your way to the Enlightened World Network YouTube page, because you can be putting in comments from there. So anyway, let's see. Where this is coming up for me is with a family situation that just has become untenable. It's interesting when we want more than anything to be able to create healing, connection, harmony, all of that kind of thing, and sometimes it's just not possible. And in these cases, the question is, when do we let go? When do we continue fighting? When do we or fighting for an outcome, or intending an outcome? Fighting for something is always creating conflict, right? But when there is persistent conflict, when is it appropriate to walk away? And is walking away giving up? It's a very tough question. For me, it's been a very tough question because in my life, I have really dedicated the better part of my life to healing my family, to healing relationships in my family. And I've been very committed to that, and to healing myself in the context of those relationships. And there's a lot of emotion that gets tied up, or a lot of different aspects that gets tied up in trying to navigate these intimate relationships, right? And there is a point at which things can become so toxic that I'm inclined to believe at this moment that the best thing to do for all parties perhaps is just to walk away and to say, I'm done. That's it. I'm done. And you know, perhaps there may be something in the future that enables those doors to reopen. But there's just such, when there's a certain dynamic established, it kind of holds people in the constraints of that dynamic in behavior. And in many cases, by changing ourselves, by transforming ourselves, that dynamic can transform. And I don't know if that's always the case. And so, you know, it's a big choice to be making, at least in my experience, to say, okay, I'm done. And it's interesting to be recognizing. Oh, hi, Kimberly. Welcome. Happy Friday to you. We're talking about walking away. And my example is in the context of family dynamics, but I think that we all get to experience the challenges of when to keep plugging, keep trying, keep working at something, and when to say enough. And I'm wondering what it takes for you to get to that place of enough. For me, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to get to that place where I'm done. And especially when the bonds are very deep in my heart, you know. And I think that maybe by that release, that is such a dramatic shift of the dynamic that who knows, maybe it leaves an opening for new possibility, you know, because the I'm done scenario for me anyway was previously unthinkable. Good morning, Rosalind. You made it. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have you here with us. So last night we did on Sustainability Now, we had a movie night, which was awesome, with a man named Zach Weiss, who I've mentioned before, who started an organization called Water Stories, talking about how by restoring the water cycle, we really can transform this whole pattern on the planet of climate change and fire, flood, and drought. And it's such a profoundly hopeful solution. Good morning. Good morning. Kimberly is saying good morning to Rosalind. So anyway, Rosalind joined us last night. So it was really delightful to see you there, Rosalind. And I invite all of you to join us on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. If you're interested in what we're doing with Sustainability Now, you can go sign up for our email list at sustainabilitynow.global. Anyway, so, you know, one of the things in one of the techniques that I was taught in neurolinguistic programming, NLP, is something called a pattern interrupt. And it's when, you know, like somebody's going off on whatever they're going off on, and then there's some kind of interjection that just stops them cold. You know, like maybe it's laughter, maybe it's screaming, maybe it's, you know, whatever it is, something that jostles them out of their tirade or whatever it is. And it's called a pattern interrupt, because then it's really hard to get back to whatever rant or whatever stream they were following, whatever river they were going down. And so I'm wondering if when it becomes clear that it's time to walk away, I'm wondering if that might serve as a pattern interrupt. It may not. That's not why I'm doing what I'm doing. But I think that it's interesting. I'm thinking back on a friend who was talking about a mutual acquaintance that they were still holding friendship with, and they were saying it's like making friends with a scorpion, like having a scorpion as a pet. And you have it there so that you know where it is and whatever, but you're always really careful of how it might sting you, and or protecting yourself so that it doesn't sting you. And I think that there are many situations in our lives when we dance around people and in relationship where it's like making friends with a rattlesnake. Dangerous to do that, um or a scorpion for that matter, right? And I the idea of the pattern interrupt, walk away without expectation, without I think without anger, without resentment. That's an interesting challenge, right? To be able to really just walk away cleanly. I have to say that in my decision, there's sadness around it. And I'm working to clear the sadness, because I know that it's better for me and it's probably better for this other person. And we talk here a lot about resistance, right? And how resistance really embeds the thing we're resisting. So when we stop resisting, it leaves possibility. It leaves room for possibility. So it makes me think of the phrase, or there was a story, I don't remember. I'm really bad at remembering jokes, so I don't even think it's a joke, but it was a story about don't walk away mad, just walk away, or don't go away mad, just go away. And I think that that's what sometimes we get to choose. So Rosalind says, when we understand the underlying reason for the behavior, it helps to accept, even though we perceive they should behave differently. So that's exactly the situation here, is like, I understand the behavior, and the behavior is like super toxic, and I understand it. And it doesn't mean that I need to expose myself to that toxicity, right? And Rosalind says, so walking away without putting things into context can be done without creating a story, to just accept that it is what it is. So maybe putting it into context is important. Like I recognize in this situation, I recognize the dynamics, I recognize the motivation for the behavior. I understand, the woundedness behind it. And it's still like playing with a rattlesnake. And not that I ever have, but it's, it feels just as dangerous. And it's not that I love this person less. It's just that I'm not going to subject myself to that kind of treatment. And I don't see where I can make a positive impact at this point. Up until now, I've felt that, the power of my love would make a difference. And I am not as convinced that my love in close proximity is helping. So I can just love this person for, for who I know them to be in their heart and soul. And just, we all know we can love somebody and not love their behavior, right? Or we can love somebody and not like them, for that matter, right? And sometimes the most loving thing to do, I think, is step away. I think in saying that, what I'm recognizing is that not only do I feel like I can't do good, I feel like the interactions end up exacerbating the issue for this other person. And I don't want to be contributing to that negativity in their experience. So, I at this moment, and this is the reason I'm talking about this is because I think all of us have had at times experiences where we're in relationships that are toxic, and or relationships that are really fraught with very, very challenging dynamics. And so the question is, what is the best way? What is the most loving way, even, to be dealing with those relationships? There's lots, and it's very challenging. And Rosalind says, perhaps we're either projecting or extending who is having the experience, So I don't know. I don't know if that's a question or an observation, but we're always projecting and extending. I don't think that there's any doubt that that's a factor here for sure. Is that in trying to understand somebody else, all we can do is project, because we are bound by the limits of our own perception, right? But there are contexts into which we try to communicate where we're not perceived in any way in alignment with the intention that we're projecting or that we're intending. It's like where there's it was interesting. I had a conversation with a client who was talking about language and how her experience had been that she was talking to people and they were talking to her, and it was like ships passing in the night. Like there wasn't a meeting point of understanding. There was this being at odds. And I think that can happen. So when that happens, sometimes it's better to just stop until something can change enough. Like trying to change it can be like scraping an already open wound, I think. And it's tough to discern when is that the case. Like I said, this is not a decision that comes easy for me to say enough. I'm done. It's not an easy decision. Kimberly says, I'm experiencing this with my aunt and her alcoholism. Wow. Now, yeah, it's difficult. And the thing is, if I believed that I were having a positive impact and I could do that in a way that was healthful for me also, then I probably wouldn't have made this choice. But I just, at this moment, it feels like kind of a lost cause, and I don't want to be brutalizing the other person or myself in trying to make it otherwise, So Kimberly says, sincerely, this is my struggle today. She doesn't have any more, can't drive. She's all alone. I'm her caregiver now. Wow. Kimberly, that's tough. Wow. So if you're a caregiver, then there's not a whole lot of opportunity to exit. I remember I was a caregiver for someone who would periodically be pretty nasty. And I would say, oh, she doesn't have anyone. Gotcha, Kimberly. Sorry. So the fact that you're her caregiver, what I was saying is I was caregiver for a person who would get pretty nasty periodically. And I'd say, hey, you know what? I'm happy to help you. And you don't get to talk to me that way. You know, it's not acceptable. It's not okay. And you may or may not have that leverage. I don't know. This is probably some of the most challenging stuff that we experience. And most often we experience it with family because those are the closest people to us, right? Those are the people that we've been taught how to interface with the world from, right? You can do this, Kimberly. Absolutely, you can do this. And the thing is to not do it to your destruction, right? Like to not serve yourself up as a sacrifice in order to be helping somebody else that is unappreciative and attacking and disrespectful and all of that. So Rosalind says, Kimberly, not just anyone can take on a role as a caregiver. Oh my gosh, Rosalind, that is so completely true. Rosalind says, sending ease and grace for your journey, being the light for your family. Really, really beautiful, Rosalind. I agree. And Kimberly says, I need to set boundaries, come from a loving place. Exactly. Exactly. Like it is possible to set boundaries to say, you know what, I'm here. I'm here for you. And it's not okay to talk to me that way. It's not okay to treat me that way. You know, and that is coming from a loving place, and it's loving to you and to her, you know, to let her know that this is not okay. And I attempted that in my situation and got, well, that's just too bad. And that was part of where the enough came from for me as well. You know, if there's not a give and take, if there's not a willingness to be in relationship, then I'm done. I'm done for now, you know, because it takes two, right? And Kimberly, along with what Rosalind said, you know, it's really it's a big commitment to take on the role of caregiver for someone, and very challenging. And it takes a special person to be able to do that. And know that you don't have to be a sacrificial lamb in the process. You know, that you can lovingly set boundaries. And it's important. And it's also possible to get to a point where you don't take that stuff personally, you know. It's a really interesting tightrope, at least in my experience, to say, really, truly, when is enough enough? You know, when is it better for all concerned to step away? I think not out of malice, not out of vengeance, not out of anger or hatred, you know, but out of mutual respect. Really challenging. Kimberly says, such a good morning. I needed this. I've been having daily struggles trying to figure out my role in this. I'm so glad you found this timely, Kimberly. It's tough. It's tough to figure out, you know, how much do I give? When am I giving to a point that it's creating damage? You know, like, what do we don't have the obligation to be wounded in order to care for another, you know. I know that when we talk about the airplane, you know, you put on your oxygen mask first so that you can support others. If what you're breathing is toxic gas, then it doesn't help you to help anybody, right? And sometimes there's just no communicating through the divide. And maybe I just, you know, if I'm hoping for the best, maybe the love from a distance without that combative interaction, you know, or without that challenging interaction, maybe the intention from a distance can help. And I recognize, Kimberly, that you are not at a distance. So, you know, you're right in the fray. So Rosalind says illness is a stressor on the body and the mind, right? And Rosalind continues, the perception in our minds creates the conditions which our bodies respond to. Walking away feels safe, so we don't have to hold a defensive posture. Exactly. So that's one element of being able to walk away. And we're not always able to walk away, but when we are, you know, then we can drop the resistance, we can drop the defensiveness, we can be present to our love for that person, for their heart, even if not their behavior. And hopefully that love conveys, you know, I don't know. I'm inclined to believe, you know, that we can hold this person in light, and hopefully that is something they experience. So Kimberly says, yes, Rosalind, I'm definitely trying to shake off the stress and negativity. I go to my little creek and soak in the cold water and breathe in the fresh air. Kimberly, how beautiful, and that you know to go to nature to relieve you and to bring you to balance. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Nature is magic in that regard, right? Which brings me to today. I'm very excited to be going and helping in a community garden that was put together by a friend, so I can be outside, have my hands in the ground, in the dirt, and be connected. So I totally recognize how powerful nature is in bringing us back to a place of center and alignment. So anyway, we have these challenges, you know, trying to make the loving decision. And when we make a loving decision, it includes being loving to ourselves. And yeah, I don't think it's ever black and white. And just because we make that decision today doesn't mean that that decision stays tomorrow too, right? It's like we need to allow ourselves to be able and willing to flow with the calling of the moment, right? To be calling forth of possibility. So there are times when we have a definitive decision in this moment, and then another moment there's a different decision, and we get to be open to that, and hopefully we are able to receive and respond to the possibilities more readily in that way. So Kimberly says, big happy smiles and a lovely day weekend. I sure appreciate you sending love and light outwards. Kimberly, I so appreciate you and everybody else who's joining us. So much appreciation and good luck. Be easy with you. Be respectful of you in your relationship with your aunt. And it goes without saying, be respectful of her. And I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And normally we're going live on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. We've been having some glitchy problems with the restream. So here we are on YouTube. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you who participate in these conversations. And you enrich my life. And I am so grateful to you. And let's keep doing this. Hope to see you again here really, really soon. So much love.